We usually pay those folks after they can successfully complete it 90 days
Okay.
on the job.
Okay. Is that at all levels? Okay. Any other questions about hiring and recruiting? Go check out, if you hire, go check out iapplicants.com. Costs about $700 a year, huge time saver. You post the job on iApplicants, it blasts it out to 9 different job boards, and you don't have to sit there and post on Craigslist and Indeed and find a job, and you know, used to you'd have to do all that stuff. iApplicants just lists it all for you, and then they start coming in. All right, general management. If it can be done 80% as good as you can do it as a manager, it must be delegated. You've got to delegate that task. Meaning, if you look at, okay, I need to type this paper, and you go, can Sally type this almost as good as I can? Pretty much as good as I can? Then Sally needs to do it. Your direct report. You need to focus as a manager on the things that are of highest benefit that nobody else can do. You've got to push down, because we as managers, as we've come up through the ranks, you can do most any job that your subordinates can do, and you feel like it's a win. You know, if this problem comes up, I can handle that, I know how to do it, and you jump in to get in there, and that's great because you know how to do it. But what does that do to your direct report that could do it 80% as good as you will, and the task that really needs to be done, like hiring and recruiting, remains undone while you stamp out that little fire? If it can be done 80% as good as you can do it, you need to let them do it, because it's going to allow them to grow. Make your expectations crystal clear. Take information from operations in your company, whether you're 1 employee or 100 employees. Take information in from all levels. Have y'all ever heard of the term MBWA? Anybody know what that is? Management by walking around. You really need to see what's going on at the loading dock. You need to see at the sales counter. You need to go to customer where the lowest level, a lot of times the lowest level employees have the most interaction with your customers. So you got to be there at some of that stuff. You know, you got to see what's really happening, not just how, you know, Kenneth might go out and just know how to do, you know, bug spraying to the best and interact with the customers, and Kenneth goes back to the office assuming that every employee that's handling that job is doing it exactly the same that you would be. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it doesn't happen.
It just and you train them, you show them. This is how it's done, and you've got to know that. You know, you've got to know, you know, how your employees are interacting. You've got to see that stuff. Well, I'm running behind again. Create systems to handle the business, and hire people to run the systems. And an example of that, I'll pick on my wife a little bit more. She is the person that handles payroll. Would you agree that payroll might be pretty important in a business?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's the key. If payroll doesn't happen, if payroll's not entered on time, direct deposit and all that good stuff, it's a safe assumption that your employees are not going to remain employees very long. So payroll is a crucial system in my business, and my wife handles it. She handles it very well, and she executes every other Tuesday without flaw.
Did you get that, Mike?
Yeah, that was a good attaboy there. My acceptance points just went up a little bit.
Yeah. So what happens when my wife is not there?
Robert says, oh great, I gotta do payroll.
Do you think Robert can do payroll as good as his wife?
No.
Because Robert doesn't do payroll very often. In comes this system. And a system is as simple as a document. I sat down with my wife and said, this is not going to happen again. I felt like a retard trying to do this, and I almost messed it up. I mean, we're talking when you know, tax deposit of 10 grand goes to the wrong account, that tends to be a problem. So I sat down in front of Word on my laptop and said, and that took me about an hour and a half. Okay, go. What do you do first? What do you do second? What do you do third? And you go through and list it step by step, dumb it down, and now I've got about a 4-page document with all the technical support numbers to Peachtree Payroll and every step of the way through payroll, so I could take that piece of paper and give it to almost any person in my company and say, I need you to handle payroll today. And they would be able to walk it through. So that's a system. That's replacing yourself as a manager. That's delegating. So there are hundreds of systems in a business, but the more you can document, the more you can systematize whether you're a top-level manager or whether you're a person in the trenches, you can still systematize things so that they happen without flaw. It creates standards. Pay as much as you possibly can. If you've got the budget, I mean, your job as a manager is to keep expenses, what, high or low? Low. But people, the right people being the most important asset, if you put the right filter on there, you need to fight for them and pay them as much as you possibly can. Because if they're worth investing in and they're worth keeping, pour it on. Treat all employees with the same degrees of respect from the janitor to the COO, and will propel your career whether you're in a small business or a big company. Review performance regularly. Well, one of my favorite statements is, you will get the performance that you tolerate. You know, mediocre people, it'd be a pain to fire them and then have to replace them and do interviews, so I'll just put up with it. Well, you'll continue to get what you continue to receive. You put up with, I mean, you get what you tolerate. Any questions about general management?